Just like
Oh
that,
my
ladies
God,
and gentlemen,
stop.
we are back with another review of the hit, and I'm going to call it a hit at this point because I'm actually loving this show.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
hit HBO Max Sex and the City sequel, and just like that, it's your boy Lucas with my beautiful, voluptuous,
I have no
secret
idea. You keep calling me
gardeness.
voluptuous. You know I'm
You know,
slim.
the weird part is, it's literally one of the first words I can think of that comes into my mind. Miss
Ridiculous.
Amaya Desire, how are you doing this evening?
I'm well. I'm very well. Extremely well.
Look here, we just had a little pre-production fun as we were just thinking about this episode, and it's a chance I'm gonna get the name of this wrong, even though I literally just looked up National Geographic special
Yeah,
to
you did.
make sure I pronounced this name right, and I felt so wrong watching that special trying to figure out this name. But this is episode 6, and it is called Diwali. Did I say that right?
That's how I said it in my head.
Okay, I'm making sure I got this right. So let's really quickly jump into the episode, as the first thing we see is Carrie shopping for a new apartment, and then like right here is where you like key Ari Lennox song "New Apartment" right there.
That's a good one.
As we see her shopping for this new apartment with Anthony, as again they're trying to integrate him as being the other pivotal member of this cast. Quick impressions. What did you think about this quick glimpse at what we find out is Carrie's new life in this amazing apartment?
All I said was, that's what I want. As soon as I seen him with all the windows, I said, oh, okay, I'm finna sell my house and get me a penthouse. That's what I'm doing on his side. I think it's Carrie, aside from the fact that it'll need some pizzazz, some style, some Carrie swag. I mean, I think the open space concept for her is actually like it's really cool. Like, I like it. And it's not, I mean, it was interesting to hear her say like she's unsure about it, considering we've seen her be in spaces that are similar. The times have changed. So I feel like all she did was get something similar to what she has. She just got it more modernized. It's more 2020 right here, right? Yes. So for me, I mean, I was just like, this is absolutely Carrie. So I mean, I loved it.
Now that was the biggest, at least a big talking point of this episode, is Carrie in this apartment. But right here, we just hitting it quick off the jumps of our first impressions of her and this apartment. But our next impression is something that lingers on through this entire episode and leads into one of our discussions later on. Miranda and this vivid, heavenly dream of Shay just doing everything.
Listen. I was sitting there, and at first I was like, wait, this is not happening again, is it? Because that would be like Miranda is on a road. But apparently it was just a dream. But it was she was so excited. So like, this is, I guess, the beginning when she's daydreaming while she's in class. Listen, now, when you have a flashback and everybody done left off the train and you still the only one on it, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, that was Miranda. That was definitely Miranda.
Okay, I thought I was I was expecting like at the end, like Shay to face the camera and say Dior. Like that's what I thought.
What? Oh my gosh.
I'm like, what type of perfume or cologne commercial is this? This is, it was just the way it was shot. And this is also shot by Cynthia Nixon, who plays Miranda. This is the episode she directed.
Nice.
So it kind of explains the way she shoots the scenes when Miranda is daydreaming. And a lot of other scenes, the way she shoots in this that we'll get into later. It makes perfectly good sense for someone who's so connected with the cast that they would show you these images, right, to get you like entranced in the story, because that's what it did more than anything else. It pulled me in, and I said, oh, this is a lot, but this is extremely interesting. Even down to other things that we'll discuss. But again, our next point to talk, because I'm loving this going woman by woman as we get introduced to them in this episode. We have Charlotte with Rock, Rose, however you want to call it. But this was the first time that we saw her interact with her children.
With Lily included.
With Lily and with Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't come across as being too forced. Here, Rock was making great points about basically wanting to become an individual, and Lily understanding like her mom's not prepared for it, but this is things you need to hear. What did you think about that scene, that setup in that bedroom as Rock is telling her, I want to cut my hair, and he changed his wall, please take down the racist dolls that are up against the wall? Like, what was your impressions of that scene?
I thought it was a good scene. You could see Charlotte's sorrow in a sense, right? Like her really her moment of coming grips with like, this is what's happening. And even in that moment, she still wasn't like fully in, but she was just kind of processing it. And I like that Lily didn't take sides per se. She just made it. She just made points. Like she stated facts that did obviously fill what the space. And so it was kind of cool because it's like, well, yeah, we know Rock wants to, address themselves as such, right? So now you got the transition with the name, with the pronouns. Now you want to cut your hair. Now you want to take the name off the wall and put something else up. You want to get rid of the dolls. And it's like there's so much happening to Charlotte at once. I felt like she was overwhelmed with like emotion, and it was confusing to her. She wasn't really sure like which way to go. But at the end, we see Lily say what she says, breathe, Mom. So I thought that was very interesting because you can tell like she's going into a moment of anxiety. And although Lily, can't quite understand it because she's still a child, she understands that there's a lot happening, and she just says breathe. So I thought it was a really good episode, or a good scene rather, that was shot.
Yeah. And I believe, for me at least, it showed the relationship that possibly Rock and Lily have, that Lily probably already knows all of this. And she understands her mom enough to know this ain't something you're going to be able to deal with easily. Breathe, calm down. Yes, she doesn't want the dolls. I don't want them either. They are creepy and embarrassing.
Not they were made in New York though, and she said that they were international. I said, "Oh."
It's just that it's something in this scene where, while we're dealing with someone transitioning, this is also the transition of life for parents. Like you set this room up for your little daughters, your little kids. They're growing into individuals. As you grow into individuals, things must change. And as a parent, it's about how do you adapt to that change. The moment she said, well, I had that hand painted on the wall with your name on it. Hello. And I did the same thing with Lily. It's like, you're not ready and prepared for them to fully grow up. And I understand the part of Rose Rock transitioning is overshadowing that this mom is still dealing with, like, my kids are growing up.
Right. Yeah.
So in the midst of her kids growing up, she also is stuck with a situation with one of her kids transitioning to be the person that they feel they should be. So all of that into one is really hitting Charlotte hard here. And again, I just love the moment when Lily said, Mom, breathe. Like, we know what you're going through here. Right. Now, speaking of characters going through things, and we could jump into this one a little deeper because this is a supporting character. Seema. With the pressure of the Festival of Lights coming up, the pressure of her family, the pressure of just being with someone. I feel this is a great point for us to have a nice discussion about how does it feel to be, or to absorb the pressure from your parents, to be married, to be in a relationship, to be with someone. I know I go through that, and I know you go through that, so I feel we can have this discussion about it just to dig deeper into the mindset of Seema and what she's feeling, to the point that she even creates a person to pinpoint her parents so they'll leave her alone, and then make him a race that she already knew they weren't going to be overly accepting of anyway. Clever,
very clever.
What were your thoughts about just Seema this episode?
Well, I think that it's kind of like a double-edged sword for women, right? And I'm probably not saying that right, but in my head, that's what it sounded like. So, the pressure of having a kid, if you've said that you want kids, and even sometimes if you said that you didn't say anything at all, because it was just something that they assumed that you would want to do.
Yes.
The pressure to be in a relationship. I find that right now, mine is more on the, well, what are you doing about yourself to be ready for the relationship? Do you know how to compromise? Are you patient? It's like an interrogation, and I hate that. Yes. So for me, watching her struggle, I think the thing is that she wants to genuinely find love. You know what I mean? So she wants to have this spark that initiates this burst. I watched a show last night, and they went on a date. The couple in the show, they went on a date. They went to dinner. So let's say about 7 p.m. The restaurant closed. They went to the bar. The bar closed at about 2. They went to the diner, and then after the diner, they left and they got married. Right. So.
Oh.
Right. But I say all that to say is that some of us want that feeling that we have our person, that we found our person, that like, this is it. And I think what you see is Seema saying she wants to genuinely connect with somebody, especially at this point. She's 53, right? Is what they said.
Yeah, 52, 53.
So she wants to do what's right for her. And I think that it's crazy that still at 53, your parents can still pressure you and make you feel like you're 35 all over again, because they want you to they have this certain expectation of you. So that's also something, it's the expectation. Even if I told you that that's what I want, right? Even if I've told my mom I would really want to be a mother, I'm not just going to rush into it. Oh, I really want to be a wife. I'm not going to rush into it. But I think that there's a difference between support and intimidation. And I think that sometimes we get intimidated and we end up in spaces that we probably don't need to be in. And when you really just want the support that says like, hey, okay, you taking your time, cool. You're on these dating apps, cool. You want me to like go over your profile for you or look at your pictures, but not like going in and being like, he'll be good for you. He'll be, you know what I mean? Like that's a completely different situation. So I think that she wants to just genuinely find and let it happen to her, and her parents are more so like, let us make it happen for you.
And do you think their cultural background plays a part? Again, they pinpoint in an episode that her parents said they were in an arranged marriage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're like, you don't have to be in love from the beginning. You can grow to love someone. And when that's not your dream and the way you have it set up, how does that overall affect how you deal with your parents when it pertains to your love life? I thought that was a beautiful part of this episode.
Yeah, I love that, because we talk about it all the time, and not just the Indian culture, but in African culture, sometimes in in the Asian or Chinese culture.
Yes.
And so the idea that was something that they just do. So it's like, okay, we know that you're a woman and you're meant to be a wife, and we know that you're a man, you're meant to be a husband. So we don't care if you like each other, if you love each other. We're just going to pair you up. Oh, you were born on July 4th, 1984. She was born on July 6th, 1984. Y'all are going to be married. Like, and you have no idea that this is already like planned out for you.
Yes.
And I think that, in those instances, the parents don't understand that. They can't comprehend. How can she get a choice when I didn't have one? Right? Like, how is that possible? How am I willing to give her the opportunity to just choose when I didn't get to choose? I think that is something that parents might struggle with, because while you love your husband now, I'm sure if you had it your way, you would have chosen somebody different. You know what I mean? So I think it could be an envious type of thing, and also like a just no, this is the way things are done. And we know how that goes when we have certain rules and traditions in the family, that when you come up and you decide to be the one to break it, you get all kind of stank eye. So
it comes from that pressure of, how dare you dream for something different than what I had to go through. And neither side is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
There are some arranged marriages with people who absolutely deeply love and care for one another, but it's just something about that love at first sight that some people need and want and crave. Like I want to feel like I loved you from the moment I met you, not someone who I grew to love over time. Because it's almost taken away the option for me to experience that whirlwind romance that so many people want. Weird the way to put it that way. But another thing we had in this episode with another supporting character, Miss Dr. Nia Wallace, as we get introduced to her again with Miranda during her little daydream when she takes Miranda out for a walk, and they go from discussing business to discussing her biggest issue, which is her IVF treatments and having a friend who seems to be pregnant every week. And the impact of that, but not only the impact of her just being pregnant, but someone who constantly brings up babies, pregnancy and everything of that nature. And then we get to the dinner table and we see her fears about her friend are wrong, but boy, her husband, in one of the, I hate to say it, one of the most disrespectful scenes I've seen on a television show, as he's constantly pushing like, no, y'all need to have kids. Well, why can't we talk about this? I don't understand why y'all don't have kids. What was your perception of that scene? And then dig deeper into just your perception of the pressure. Because we just spoke about the pressure from a different cultural background, but the pressure from the African American community that if you're a couple, you're supposed to have children.
Right.
Like, it makes no sense for you not to.
Right after the wedding, they asking you, when's the baby coming? At the wedding, they might ask you, when's the baby coming, right? I found it very inappropriate, completely disrespectful. And I would have had to pull him to the side. Like if I was the husband, I need to pull you to the side. Whether it's after dinner or right now, you're going to pull to the side because you need to know you can't talk to my wife like that. Exactly. As somebody who's suffered a miscarriage, right? IVF is if the egg doesn't take, right, or the sperm doesn't take, or it's not fertile, whatever the case may be, it's just as bad as like being pregnant and losing a kid, because you're just like, you're expecting to go this full journey. And so I think that it's uncomfortable for him to just talk recklessly like that and like not even really apologize. That it was totally baffling when he said what he said, but I also feel like she needed to read the room too. And while I get that this is a moment to celebrate and to say, like, hey, we wanted to tell you we were pregnant, it's also like, all right, like how far along are you? You know what I mean? Like, could it have waited another week or so to tell me? And I'm not saying that in a mean way. I'm saying that in reality, like people don't realize that you kind of can always mourn. Grief doesn't have a timetable. And so we have to just be careful. But I definitely disliked his behavior completely. A couple like, you should have kids. And I thought to myself, that's just totally, totally inappropriate. And I would have definitely wanted him to have, get shut down.
Especially being the husband in that situation of understanding everything that your wife is going through and understanding the challenges of her even not fully being committed to doing another round of treatments again. And again, someone else who's, when you live through a miscarriage and you build up all that anticipation for a kid and then something happens, the last thing you need is someone coming to you and giving you pressure about, why don't you have kids yet? What's going on with the kid? Yeah. Like, you don't want any of that. And that's why I said this scene he was so inappropriate in the scene, but it also shed light on Dr. Wallace's relationship. Because as the husband tried his best to be supportive of her. Yeah. Even letting her know, like, no, you need to tell me when you're going through these things. It's perfectly fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings about it. Right. Yeah. So I think even through the pain of watching that scene, you get the silver lining of afterwards of them, doing things.
I mean, listen, if she ain't pregnant, I don't know what to tell you.
Look at practice makes perfect.
Listen, they better have written that damn thing in the next episode. You hear me? Because I said, well, shit, I'm pregnant just watching. Hell.
But just that, and then him being supportive after the fact of just letting her know, like, an open flow of conversation. Always, that's what we do. And it's not a problem with it. And I think he was great, besides the point that I wanted him to punch the other guy in his face. But he was great of just being supportive of his wife. And just like, no, when it happens, it'll happen. I'm not here to put extra pressure on her in this situation, because you don't necessarily know our struggle with everything that's going on. And I absolutely love that scene. And another scene I absolutely love, because we have watched this entire show and watched Miranda's son be the most disrespectful child in the world. So here we get Miranda thinking about Shay again.
Going to town.
And she decided, I don't care who coming to this door. I'm not stopping. But you understand, you got a math test to study for.
When they brought that into the scene, I was definitely laughing. I said, okay, I love it. All right, let's go.
Like, it's just a great moment for Miranda, but also, again, it brings a deeper discussion. She's doing this at home in the bed, not thinking about Steve at all.
Right.
Only thinking about Shay.
Yeah.
And again, we get bigger highlights as we'll talk later on in the episode about the big discussion between the big three friends. Mm-hmm. But like, this was just a funny scene, because as awkward as he was with her in that scene has been as awkward as we have been in the corner of Miranda this entire series with him.
Yes, agreed. I definitely agree on that. I was baffled because I thought that she was going to stop. But then I realized that how close she was, right? And she was like, well, forget this. And so I was like, okay, Miranda, but again, confused, like for real, confused. Like, you're married, you are daydreaming about this experience that you had over and over and over again.
Exactly.
And this is the thing that's getting you like aroused and hot and bothered since you've been in a while. So it's like, well, okay, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, listen, she should have put a sock on her doorknob.
Oh, well, not to do not disturb.
The do not disturb. Don't come in here. I'm not going to do it.
Every parent in the world, no matter if you have little ones, if you have teenagers, if you have grown kids who for some odd reason have decided they're not going to leave the house yet, you all need to get a do not disturb sign for your door, and you hang it up there and be like, look here, when this is on the door, I don't want no knocking. I don't care that you want a snack. I don't care that you want water. I don't care that you need food. I don't care that you can't breathe. When this sign is on the door, I need you to leave me alone. This is mommy or daddy's me time. And when I need my me time, you just gotta leave me alone.
Daddy, your me time is lasting really long and it's going into my time.
Exactly.
She'll be like, well, what's we time? Because we time is running out. Like, well, I got a curfew.
Exactly. Now, another good scene in this episode was the scene of Carrie and Charlotte going to the storage bin, attempting to find something to make her house feel more like a home. Mm-hmm. And then we get the first, I want to say possibly one of the first times we've seen Carrie truly break down over something as it pertained to Big.
Yeah.
And she's going through these appliances, and then she comes across his records and she can't deal with it. How do you feel this show is handling the grief aspects of life? Because again, most people understand we have 7 stages of grief?
Mm-hmm.
And just the way they're progressing Carrie through these stages of grief with Big's passing.
I'm not sure, honestly. I feel like, they kind of tiptoeing around it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's not very much, like, the fact that she's dealing with her friend's problems more than she's dealing with Big's death is very bothersome. You know what I mean? Because for me, it's like, well, it's not bothering you. And again, like we said, the stages of grief, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel as though Charlotte is trying more so, obviously, than Miranda to be there for Carrie. And I'm not saying that's purposeful, but I feel as though like they're not really in a better space after what happened with Miranda and Shay at her house.
Let me quickly interject. Do you believe that has more to do with their personalities?
What do you mean?
Between Charlotte and Miranda, the way they're approaching and their attempts to help Carrie get over Big's passing, do you think that had way more to do with their personalities than anything else? Miranda comes across as the strong, independent woman, like I can pull myself up by my bootstraps, and yet Charlotte has always been the more caring one.
Yeah.
Do you think that plays a bigger role in it?
That's a good question. I think so, because this is just me personally speaking, and everybody deals with grief differently, but me personally, I would prefer Charlotte. You know what I mean? Yes. While I know that Charlotte can come over in the beginning, she that was really just her guilt, right?
Yes.
In the beginning when everything happened. I think now she's in the space of I understand, right? She's like, okay, so I'm not gonna intrude. I'm gonna let you have your moment. If you need me, I'm here. If this is all you want to do today, then that's cool. I love her patience and her kindness. And I think that that's just really what it looks like to be completely in femininity, if that makes sense, right? Her feminine side. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. A lot of people will be like, oh, it's weak, it's sensitive and dainty and soft. And, some women are just built like that. And then there's some of us who are built completely opposite, where we're just like strong, we got it, we don't need anything. And then there's some of us who are in the middle that have balance. I like to think I'm one of the ones in the middle. But, and so in order to be in a space like that, I do feel like Charlotte is the best person for her right now, because now that she's had her moment, she can kind of like be here. Whereas Miranda is kind of, I don't want to say selfish, but because she was going through what she was going through, right? Like the alcoholism and all of that, I could see how she would come off unattentive, not necessarily meaning to do so, but coming off that way.
Now, that leads us into the big conversation. Comfort. I'm just not going to say that word right tonight. People have been a little drinking a little bit of wine.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
And just like that.
Oh my gosh. I can't.
But we get the big conversation at the table between the three ladies, where it seems like a lot of what's been happening this season is laid on this beautifully set up charcuterie board and everything else. Because when she said, here, cheese, I'm like, why don't my friends go to the park with a charcuterie board?
We should do that. We'll do it this summer.
Sparkling wine. Exactly. Not the fake wine that they had, because Miranda can't drink.
No, we want real stuff.
We drink.
Yeah, so, we want real stuff.
We want the real stuff. But what do you think about this conversation they had, as it jumps from a lot of things that Carrie's going through? We also see Miranda finally inform Charlotte of her big, I'm going to call it, and her feelings with Shay, and Charlotte's response to it, as it almost parallels what I believe is closer to what her response would be to Rock, when she's like, well, you've always been this way. What made you change now? It's like it's like all the pressure of this season came into the head at this table amongst these friends. What did you think about that conversation?
Well, I honestly, so for one, I adore Charlotte. The more that the way that they're building her character, I actually really like it. And I guess also because I can see myself a little bit in her, is that the person who wants to be soft, right? And who wants to be caring and compassionate, and who usually genuinely is, but then also is like, well, what? Like, that's not acceptable. You know what I mean? Like, that's absolutely absurd. So for me, I'm thinking to myself, like, why? Why is Carrie doing this sort of skating over things? And she's been doing it the past couple of episodes, right?
Yep.
It's not the first time. So Charlotte is saying, like, no, like, we cannot do this. Like, this is unacceptable. And I really like Charlotte for standing up in that moment, because I think that had she not, they wouldn't have gotten to where they got. And so, her standing up, and then Miranda's just saying, blatantly, like, what happened, but we're okay. And I like that, because that is a big assumption in friendships, when arguments happen, and even in relationships and marriages, right? Is that something happens and you feel like, because we initially talked about it, that it's okay, like it's done. And I'm thinking to myself, like, no, it's not, that's not done. Like, we need to have another conversation about it. But I think we tiptoe around trying to have those hard conversations with our friends because we're afraid that we'll lose a friend or something will go wrong. So there's a lot of different things in a space where Carrie is still grieving. She's sad. She's lost Big, but Samantha is gone. It's like, I don't want to fight anymore. I just want us to be okay, right? She's still not okay. And she still hasn't said, like, I'm not okay until she says, you know, obviously that, you know, like she said, we're okay, not that I'm okay. And I think that was a big part of like where they needed to go, because I really do think that they should have, while the initial conversation, again, like I told you when we talked about it last week, the initial conversation was okay. It was about Miranda. It's not about you.
Exactly. And I think that's, again, I love this scene at the table. I love the way these women interact with each other here. As just certain secrets are revealed to the whole group. As Charlotte pointed out, we tell each other everything. Why was this not told to me? I think that's a part and a responsibility at times of friendship that some people don't fully understand. It's different when you have two people who are clearly best friends, and then you have a third person who's also a friend of the group. This is a situation where all three of them are extremely close. So hiding something like this from Charlotte would hurt her feelings, especially with it being Miranda being with Shay, as with also having Charlotte deal with her child,
right,
transitioning to a different, I keep on catching myself because I'm transitioning to something that she's not accustomed to her being, and they wanting to be something different. So it like all came boiled to the head there. And then when Miranda gets up and decides she wants to leave,
and then ask for help because your legs sleep, girl, I pushed her ass right off the damn bench, okay? Right off the damn bench.
Even down to Carrie saying, no, that's not what we're going to do here.
Yeah.
Big's gone, Samantha's gone. You're not just going to walk away. That's not how we're going to handle that. Again, that's something that needs to be said in friendships.
Yeah,
we can disagree,
but you don't get to
really
leave.
Mad at each other. Guess what? It's still a conversation that needs to take place. You don't get to just walk away, because once you walk away, at that point, I may feel
so many things change. I've definitely, you know, it's funny. I've only experienced that once, not in a friendship, but in a relationship. We got into an argument, and when I'm in my space and I don't want to be bothered, I'm quick to grab my keys and say, okay, cool, you know, I'm out. And he literally took my keys and was like, we're in a relationship. You don't get to just leave. And I was like, so what about makeup sex? Because
and that's what this scene was. It was just about them just laying all their cards on the table and saying, hey, this is what hurt my feelings. I'm disappointed that you did this, but it's still fine because I still love you. I can be disappointed. I don't have to be the friend that's overly supportive of you doing craziness. And that's what it came across for me with Charlotte, of just her like, no, what you did was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a callback to one of our viewers who also brought up that in Sex and the City, when Steve cheated on Miranda moved out and was like, this is over. But we don't see that going on with her cheating.
Yeah.
The only person we see so far holding her accountable for cheating
is Charlotte.
Yeah. And just how true a friend that is. It's like, no, what you did was wrong. It is wrong. Yeah. This is something that should not be happening here. And you say Carrie is still numb from everything.
Yeah.
So she is playing the fence. She is like, she's
passive aggressive, extremely passive aggressive.
It's that I want everybody to be happy. I just want us to get along. I can't lose someone else. But when you're that passive, you still run the risk of losing someone because you're not being honest with them.
Right.
But what we see at I'm not even going to skip all the way to the end of the episode. Let's just talk about Seema and the Festival of Lights with her family and the conversation her and Carrie have in the car. When Carrie is worried about this apartment that for some odd reason has something that constantly beeps. I know that feeling. It took me so long to realize I had a smoke detector somewhere in my house that was going off, and it was driving me crazy because it didn't sound like any other smoke detector. But
for me, it was the fridge. You got those new sensors on your fridge. You leave the door open, and for whatever reason, I couldn't tell because it looked like it was closed. And I got close and I put my ear. I said, "It's the damn fridge. I've been beeping like this." Lord have mercy, gadgets and technology.
But
no, go ahead.
Even for Carrie having that discussion about thinking the apartment is something I can learn to love. Mm-hmm. Not something that I fall in love with right away. And in this car with Seema, as she gives Carrie the bracelet, and then she lets her know, like, if you don't love the apartment, we'll sell it.
Yeah.
You need to love it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a callback to exactly the same conversation that Carrie had with Seema when they were shopping for saris. And we're going to talk about, listen, I love a woman in a sari. I absolutely do. I absolutely do. But when they were shopping for it, and Carrie asked Seema, like, well, have you ever tried an arranged marriage? And it was like, kind of Seema like, no, I kind of want to be in love with somebody. I don't want to have to approach a situation of learning to love someone. Mm-hmm. And then when we get Carrie with the apartment, and Seema's like, if you don't love it, we can just sell it. It's not that big of a deal here.
Yeah.
Do you think their friendship is surpassing her other friendship with the girls in a sense? Because they're having the deeper conversations at times with one another than we're getting from Carrie with either Charlotte or Miranda.
I will agree. I think that, but I'll say this. I think it's because they're raw, right? So, and so the only conversation that Carrie ever had with Charlotte in regards to Big was like, it's not about you. That's why I didn't call you, because you're making it about you. You get too emotional and you get worked up, and that's not what I need. That was her conversation with Charlotte, and Charlotte got it. And then, but it wasn't like an angry snap kind of thing. It still was soft and mellow. But then the situation with Seema was very tense. It was very tense, right? And like, how dare you ruin this picture and not tell me about it before I got here. And I think because they had such a raw moment, both of them, when she brings it to their attention, like, well, you're being insensitive, she said, well, similarly to how you were being insensitive. They had raw moments. When you have raw moments in the friendships, your friendship at the very beginning, it's very hard for anything else to be like sugar-coated, because now I've already started giving it to you raw. And it wasn't disrespectful either. They're literally posing questions to each other to say, like, well, have you thought about this? Like, or did you just decide that you weren't going to try it at all because you looked at it and it looked nasty? You know what I mean? So they have a different level of honesty that I think that sometimes she doesn't have with Charlotte and Miranda, because she's too busy being passive. And I think a little bit of her doesn't want to hurt their feelings with whatever it is that she might want to say. Not so much Charlotte as it is maybe Miranda, because I feel like Charlotte has grasped the concept. She's going through her own stuff with her family, but she's still being very supportive of Carrie. Now, when it comes to Miranda, she's so all over the place, so just everywhere, that I think, and especially when it came to that alcohol situation, the fact that Carrie wouldn't say anything until after the situation with Shay kind of made it seem like, so you were willing to say nothing if this didn't happen. And I think that's where she's messing up in regards to their friendship, but also that the girls, Miranda and Charlotte, can be, they have to pay attention. And when it comes to grief, you need to pay attention to your person. You know what I mean? Because I could tell you all day that I'm okay, or you could just see me post on social media and think that I'm all right, but I'm at home crying in the dark. That you have to call your prayer. You got to pay attention to the signs of what might look like they're not telling you the whole truth. And she can't really hide from Seema, because Seema is like, listen, it's not working,
I mean, every moment they've had with one another, it's not been a moment for Carrie to hide her feelings. And that's what I absolutely love. Seema is extremely direct with Carrie. But Carrie is direct with Seema. And again, it is that new relationship. It's the fun part of the relationship when I can just be bluntly honest with you,
right?
And it'd be perfectly fine. And because their friendship has been built on being bluntly honest with one another, that's when we could get this discussion, and we finally get Carrie dealing with her grief. As we see her going back to her old apartment and realizing the reason why she wanted to leave because of some botched experiment. And I understand people. I know some people gonna get on us, and I already know the viewer. I just don't know your name. I will say your name. You're gonna get us because we skipped the whole thing about the liposuction and
the Botox surgery.
But
I was gonna bring it up.
That plays way more into what we get in the end of this episode. When Carrie says, and just like that, I realized I didn't want to miss the last 15 years. As the doctor told her, I can take 15 years off of your face, but if you do that, technically you're taking 15 years away from me of how I built this face, the things that I went through, the life that I have lived that has made me look this way. If I get a facelift, it's going to take that away. What did you think about just from the facelift scene to Carrie's awakening to that amazing outfit with Big's jacket at the end? Listen,
loved it. Oh, I said I gotta try that. Are you only allowed to dress like that in New York? Because if so, I'm gonna take a vacation in New York specifically just to come out the hotel looking like that. I thought it was hilarious, like he's like, oh, you look good, you're Italian skin, great muscle, and then goes over to Carrie and he's like, Melanin. I said, well, all right now. And then, listen, I thought some of it, I said, okay. And then he goes over and takes a 3D picture of her face. He's like, oh, facelift? No, maybe a half lift. I said, well, shit. I thought that was, I wasn't expecting that, honestly. I kind of was, but I kind of wasn't, right? Because once I saw how he paused to look at Carrie, I said, oh, we about to go down a damn rabbit hole with this, but okay, cool. I'll go with it. I thought that it was very interesting. And I love that she saw it. I love how she acknowledged after he took the 15 years off her face and she's like, oh, I remember that woman, Excellent. I love that because you want to look at a picture of yourself. Can you imagine, right? I was 15. Okay. The math is not math right now, but somewhere along those lines in my early 20s.
I was 25, 15.
Okay. So I was 24 then. And, looking at a picture of yourself 15 years ago, you're like, wow, like I remember that. And I think that her having that moment was, it just says a lot because it also encourages women who may consider Botox that you don't need it. Like you've lived what you've lived and you've earned, what you have. And like, you're still absolutely stunning and beautiful, but a little eye cream won't help, will help. It won't hurt. A little bit of eye cream won't hurt. There we go.
But again, because it was a great reminder. Again, as we said before, like every wrinkle you have on your face, you've earned it. Every wrinkle comes with a smile. It comes with a sadness. It comes with a story. It comes with everything that made you. So the last thing you want to do is be in your 50s, in your 40s, and you look in a mirror and all of that's gone. Right. Because did you really live your life once it's gone? It takes away like the ruggedness that we used to have. And again, this is just, unfortunately, I got to speak of the African American community. We have more viewers than that, but it has nothing to do with that. It's just that we used to see old films of African Americans when they would just look at their hands. Yeah. And they were like, my hands are weathered, but with these weathered hands, I did this, I lived this life. I took care of my family. It goes to the same, and I think it goes right now pertaining way more to women. Like everyone would attempt to set a standard to women what beauty is. Right. Yeah. And we saw earlier in this season with Miranda and Charlotte about Miranda's hair. Yep. Like understand.
Which she mentioned in the middle of our argument too.
It's never going to be anything wrong with aging.
Yeah.
Those are the marks that made your life. Like that's something you want. It's not if your goal is to always look younger, what you're telling me is your goal is to always to reset your life. It's to reset the things you've lived through. If it's to reset the loves that you've had, the losses that you've had, the lessons that you've learned. Like if I take away as just from my thoughts about Carrie's perspective of it, if I take away these 15 years, what have I learned?
Right.
I took away everything. Not only that, I take away the love of my life in 15 years.
Absolutely.
I just lost the love of my life. If I take him away by resetting my face, what does that say about me?
Yeah.
And again, the doctor, even though he was doing his job, he literally started the conversation with her off with, "You're beautiful." Like, I think that reaffirming is what, as men, you have to do more for women as they get older. So
absolutely,
baby, you are always going to be beautiful.
Absolutely.
Guess what? I don't want the 25-year-old you anymore.
Right,
I'm not interested in that person anymore. The person in front of me has lived with me. Like, that's the person that I want. And I think in that sense, maybe that was big, telling her, like, no, as she's putting on his suit jacket, like, no, this is the person I want to be with. This is the person who I love. Before I left this earth, before I left your side, I loved you the way you are. I don't need you at 25 anymore. Because again, who, in all honesty, who wants to deal with a 25-year-old? Have you did that before? You understand the stress?
Shit, a 25-year-old might not even want to deal with a 25-year-old.
No. Look here. Look, I turned 40 this year. I couldn't imagine dealing with somebody under 35, let alone under 30. What can am I going to get you a Happy Meal? What do I do? I'm just so confused.
I hope not a Happy Meal, because that sounds like constipation, but okay, moving on.
Again, that's a conversation that we have now at our ages versus having them in your 20s.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your final thoughts about episode 6?
Well, you know, I shout out to Charlotte for the jab about the hair during the fight, right? She said, "You should have just dyed your hair." I love that part. I lived with that part. You know, I think this episode was well done. I love what it gave us, you know, how it made us think. You know, at the end of the episode, we see Rambo messaging Shay. So, you know, we're gonna see what that turns into next episode. But overall, I feel like this was a turning point episode, right? Like, hey, no more passive aggressive, no more bullshit. Say what it is, let's deal with it. And we still get to have our friendship. We can disagree and we still have to, you know, love one each other and be here like we said we would, because that's what real friends do. So I like that. And, you know, considering that I've had some stuff going on in my life in the last year where it pertained to friendships, I feel like that should be friendship's motto. Like, unless it's extremely, extremely disrespectful. But I feel like even then, sometimes our level of what we consider disrespectful is different from what people deem disrespectful. So it's best to have a conversation about it and really just decide whether or not your friend is worth saving.
And that is a great note to end on. Thank you all who stayed with us through these minutes to listen to us talk about this amazing show. Again, check us out every Thursday at 4 a.m. Yes, 4 a.m. people. Right after the episode drops, we drop our review of the episode. Let us know what you think about it. Comment, like, subscribe. We both get into those comments. I try to answer as much as humanly possible. I love engaging with people. If you want to have a conversation in the comments, just let us know. I can go for hours. I still have half a bottle of wine left. I can talk until the wine bottle is gone. This has been another review of Just Like That from Big Gold Belt. Peace, people.